Natalie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I've been looking forward. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So, just so everyone is aware, my name's Joe Herrera. I am based out of Las Vegas. We currently have teams. The Joe Taylor Group. We're operating in Arizona, Utah, Tennessee, Colorado. Natalie and I met each other through a mutual friend. Amy Youngren is a great friend of mine. Taylor and I have been working with Amy for close to a decade. And as Amy and I started a kind of a new journey together, the collaboration, she said, I can't wait for you to meet Natalie. She's amazing. And so Natalie and I had a call maybe 2 months ago. Yeah. And I was just blown away. I'm like, there's so many people that get into the real estate industry and miss out on all of the amazing opportunities it provides. And what I love so much about Natalie is the high production she's achieving while maintaining work-life balance. So Natalie, thanks for hopping on. I'm excited to hear from you.
That's quite the intro. Thank you so much.
I'm getting good at it. In the beginning, I was like, sure. This is Natalie, ready, set, go. So Natalie, kind of talk about your origin story. Like, how did you get into the industry? Are you a native Ontarian? What would you say it, like native Torontoan?
So I am currently living, I actually moved during COVID out of the Junction, which is a special neighborhood in Toronto, to the outskirts of Mineola, Mississauga. So I traded
That's a mouthful.
I know. I traded in my walking and stone's throw distance to bars and coffee for a backyard when we all got locked down. So the timing was right. I had just, the day after the world shut down, I had my second child. So wow. I was worried about delivering to people in hazmat suits like an ET. So thankfully that wasn't the case. So I started but I spent 11 and a half years at the casino, actually. And wow. I was responsible for our high rollers. So my main job was basically to just take care of these people, to come in and offer them that like extreme level of service that you can imagine when you can't offer them trips and you don't have the ability to give them all of the things that they want, which is money or something to comp. Here in Ontario, we don't have that kind of access. So when you're competing with Vegas casinos that could fly them down and show them a great time, and I was like, well, you're in Rexdale right now, and I can send you to Swiss Chalet if you'd like. That's awesome. It basically boiled down to how I could make them feel, right? And so I've always been in the business where I come from it very honestly. My father was always in the customer care business, and customer service excellence was his main theme constantly. I remember going into his office when I was a little girl, and he had like this little plaque on his desk. He was the senior vice president of the LCBO at the time. And for those of you in the States, that's our liquor control board. And so, which
is controlled by the mafia typically in the United States. So you guys in Canada probably had a little bit
government more controlled here.
Yeah. Same thing, some would argue.
Same. Yeah. So you would think in an institution where it's essentially a monopoly, you can't you can't go into the grocery store and get alcohol. Well, now you can, but you couldn't back then. And still, he had this plaque on his desk that said, I have two rules that I operate by. Number one, the customer is always right. Number two, if the customer is ever wrong, please refer to rule number one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you would think in the alcohol business, the alcohol kind of sells itself. What kind of customer service do you have to really be showing to these people? But that was always his mindset. So he was of the notion of give, give, give. And my sisters and I learned with that, right? So when I was in this role in the casino, here I am working permanent grave shift, basically, evenings and weekends, not unlike real estate.
Yeah.
I made a promise to a friend of mine that I wasn't going to stay in the casino forever because life was passing me by, right? So I'm, in my best friend's weddings and I'm watching, their children grow up, but I wasn't experiencing those things because the casino really was like that 24-hour industry, which required your time and attention and us to be there on call at a moment's notice. So I thought, how can I implement where, like 11 and a half years, how can I shift my focus and what industries are really going to be a place where my skills are going to land, right? So I was someone who went to open houses on the weekends out of joy. And, I was already used to working hours that people weren't used to working. I was used to the evenings. I was used to the weekends. Right. I was used to the fast pace, the 24/7 bit of it. And it was a friend of mine that said, you know what, I think you'd be great in real estate. And I was like, I never really thought about it. So I started taking my courses while I was doing grave shift at the casino. And
what year is this? Like, how long ago is this?
So this is my 10th year. In May, I'll be celebrating 10 years. So
like 2012.
Yeah, we're in 20. I know, I can't even believe it. 2011, basically, when I started doing my courses and doing the online program. So yeah, 2012, I basically, I gave myself a buffer. I took a leave of absence from the casino for 6 months and said, I have 6 months to make something out of this. Otherwise, I'm going back to the casino. So, and it's government here, right? So there's a pension. We have good wages. Like, it was a very stable job.
Right.
And most people were looking at me like, are you crazy? You're going to go into like a commission-based job when you have a pension, which is like a unicorn in Ontario, But
so what?
6 months. That was it.
Yeah. So what you're talking about has great relevance for our agents in Vegas. Like it was funny because when the casino industry shut down, we got an influx of talent, like absolute killers that came into our world and did fantastic because they're used to that. People think of the casino industry as like dealing with degenerates, but it's actually not. You're dealing with people who expect great service and expect human connection. And so these individuals came into our world with that background of great service, human connection, and like need satisfaction focused individuals, and they killed it.
Yeah.
The challenge was, as soon as the casino industry opened back up, it was like, so I can hustle and grind and sell homes, or I can go do bottle service and make $900 a night, or sometimes $3,000 a night. So that we saw that in our industry because we got so much talent. Like our YouTube guy right now is my brother-in-law. He was a Jabberwocky down on the Strip. So if you guys don't know who the Jabberwockies are, they're the guys that dance like hip hop dancing with white masks on. And he wanted to be a realtor. And after a little while, I was like, bro, you're so much better at like video creation. Let's do that. And now he's like killing it for us on the video front. And so like, if anything good came out of COVID, it was like, we got Troy, right? Because were it not for COVID, he would have just stayed on the Strip. So my point in all of this is you getting yourself out of that industry. Like we talk about golden handcuffs, the hospitality industry, specifically as it deals with hotel casinos, is like absolute golden handcuffs. It's so hard to walk away. So talk about what your first couple of years were like in the industry. Did you ever have that I want to go back moment? Like did you burn the ships and you're like, I'm going to make this? Was it instant success? Like what were your first couple of years like?
I like every Tuesday wanted to go back to the casino. And those are just the thoughts that I can think of immediately. I still remember the anxiety that I felt because we always joke that like we made stripper money, right? Like here I was taking care of people's jackpots, taking care of them. And we were, the whole notion of if you win money, you should give money back in order to keep the winning cycle open was very lucrative to us. So
you traded karma as a currency. Like, hey, good thing you won. If you give me tips, then historically speaking, winning is going to continue.
Yes. And so, I mean, the thing about it is that I made 2 commitments to myself before I left. And that was, I put myself in line with, I wanted to buy my first house, which I was already in line to do. And instead of waiting until I had my license, which I was weeks away from being able to do it, I went out and I employed a real estate agent who was a professional who was she must have been 15 years at the time in the business. And she had something that I wanted to emulate. So I wanted to go through the process with her so that I could, from my client's perspective, understand the pain points, right? And you don't know the pain points that like going to 32 houses and losing 17 offers. Like nothing teaches you pain points like real life experience, right? So
right.
I did that before I left the casino. I bought this house and she had said to me, you need to have at least 6 months of savings. If you can buffer for more than that, you should. So have all of your bills lined up for 6 months. And all that said to me was, great. How long is it going to take me to save that now? And, so then I started going through the motions of like, okay, bought the house, check. Now I don't need to have, because here, at least it was a government job, unlike realtors who have the hardest time getting pre-approved for mortgages.
Right. Yeah. 2 years of,
you just can't buy them. So, I got the government job, used that to get a mortgage for myself. And then I bought a car and made sure that it was paid off and made sure that it was something that was affordable enough to fix. So instead of buying the Audi that I really wanted to buy, I bought a Ford Escape because it was reliable. And I thought I might get 10 years out of this baby and I can afford to fix it because it's local. So
how much of an influence coming into the industry, seeing people make really bad financial decisions? Because we don't have state income tax in Nevada because the people that come here and make terrible decisions pay our income taxes for us. So while you dealt with winners, for the most part, Bono has a famous line in one of his songs, which is every gambler knows that to lose is what you're really there for. So you saw high rollers making really bad financial decisions. How much of an impact did seeing others make bad decisions help you as you strategically got into real estate to say, I've seen people make bad decisions? Because it sounds like, you were way more strategic about this than I was. So how much of that was nurture as a family? How much of that was experience as a casino host? What did their bad decisions make impact on your good decisions, or is that just who you are by nature?
You know what? I think, outside of how I was raised, which I think is very impactful. I grew up in a family full of hard workers. And so, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. It was easy for us to work hard because that's what our household did. But I think at the casino, after 11 years, I can honestly say, I went through the ranks. I became a manager. There were very few things that I hadn't seen, but adults crying on a daily basis to me, it really hurt my soul. It really impacted me on a way that what I initially loved about the casino was that, you made good money. And when you left and you clocked out for the day, I got to leave it at the door, right? So I wasn't thinking about my work when I left work. But then when stepping into a management role and hearing people talk to you about their story and why they were there, or the money that they had lost, or the family that they had sacrificed, all because of this habit, the one thing that I wanted to do next was going to be to put money back into people's pockets. And I wasn't sure how I was going to do that, but real estate provided me with this opportunity to help people do good things with their money. That's the way I viewed it. Like, you might not look at your home as an investment long-term, but I am. So if you haven't thought about that, I've thought about that for you. So I want to make sure, like, when I say to you that your best interest is my only interest, this really has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with paint your picture for me. Let me intimately understand what's going on over there, and let's figure out a way to make it better for you. So whether that's short-term or long-term, those are my goals, because at the casino, I felt like I was hurting people just by being there, just by being a part of it. And I wanted to switch that. I wanted to make it better. I wanted people to be able to do things that were useful and impactful in a positive way on their lives with their money.
So I know Leilani's like brain is going ping, 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 because every time we do one of these, she jots down when somebody says something that's hyper impactful so that Troy can come back and turn it into a reel or whatever. And what you just said is so powerful, right? Like, real estate can have a very selfish motive to it, because as an industry, some would say we're overpaid because they really don't understand what we do. But even inside our industry, some of us can be doing this for very selfish reasons. But what you just said is so like, and I don't know if you've ever dug that deep before, but to realize like you were in an environment where your entire job was to get people, for lack of a better term, to make bad financial decisions, because that's how the casino makes money. And you leverage that experience into a world where your entire focus is, how do I help people build security? And how do I help people build an asset? And I think that that's such a great thing to take away from like your experience on both ends of the spectrum. What, how did your first couple of years go as far as production was concerned? Like, because 40 million in production as an individual agent, you know, you're a part of a team, but still writing 40 million in business is astronomical. Like the average agent across North America closes, I don't know, 1.3 deals per year or something. So the average agent production might be 400,000 a year, and you're, you know, 100x that. So how did your first couple of years go?
So like, you know, it's very daunting to get into a commission-based job where, you know, out of the gates, I didn't necessarily find that my efforts were matching my paychecks. And I found it very difficult to source business because I did come from the casino industry, and it was like almost a faux pas to talk about money. And then, you know, this notion of am I out there? Like, who are my buyers? Who are my sellers? Who are the people who are going to trust me in this? So I did something that I found to be very helpful and impactful for me, was that back in the day, 10 years ago, pre-construction wasn't what every person was doing. Yeah. And buying off of plan and off of spec and sitting there and painting a picture of what this building is going to be or could be, and the financial gains that, you know, we were selling to you. It was all very fictitious, but it was something that was actually at least going to pay me in advance on my future earnings. So I got in touch with a developer who said, if you can sell it, I can build it. He was turning Waterloo into a city that was, you know, it had 2 universities. I went to Laurier, so I knew the housing crisis that they were under, and the deplorable housing that I lived in. I'm pretty sure my room used to be a walk-in closet. You know, it felt that way to me. So when he said, I'm going to build, instead of building like residents, he was going to build condos, which was something that was a very unique way of thinking. So in the first 18 months of me being new to the business, I had sold, I think I want to say, like maybe it was 2 years. I had sold 13 buildings with him.
Wow.
So talk about learning by getting thrown into the deep end. I didn't know what pre-construction was. I barely knew what real estate was. And he had this product that people couldn't get enough of. So I was booked 9 to 9 straight. And then we would do recaps on the days, and we would do recaps of like, who are the clients that said no? What is your rescission? So like my rescission rate was less than 5%, which when you have a 10-day cooling period where people can back out and there is no negative recourse, you essentially hold your breath until that 10-day, because no news is good news, and it goes firm and there's no other action that needs to be taken. And his approach was something that I hadn't heard from other developers. Like other developers are like, don't reach out to them. Don't let them know that you can get out of this in 10 days. And our developer was like, I want 3 touch points in those 10 days. I want to know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what their priest said, what their lawyer said. Like, give it all to me, right? Like he wanted all of the information, because then we were going to use that the next go around. And having done that, like I got to say to you, I'm still working with some of the clients that I met then, because I decided in that moment, like there were a lot of realtors, because we were a rotating door of realtors, right? But the realtor came in, sat down, and I took over the conversation. They got the heavy paychecks, which was really nice for them. And I got a very, very, very small, if you could even say, taste of the pie at the time, because I didn't know any better to negotiate a better contract for myself. Right. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just happy to be getting work that was regular. And
so let me ask you no, you're great. This is so good. So let me talk about these, or one statement, one question. So what I'm seeing that you did is something that Taylor and I did to build our business. What's unique is we talk about, we sell real estate, but then the average real estate agent treats it like they sell clients. And what I mean by that is we always would find a unique property, and then we would take it to client after client after client to find the right client for that property. Our industry is really backwards, because what we do is we get a client and then we go property hunting. And I've always very much enjoyed the version of real estate you're speaking of, which is you get a product and now you're finding the right client for that product, as opposed to finding the right product for that client. So I think that there's so much wisdom in that, even especially in today's market. Like if you get a listing, go find a client for that listing. Where I hear so much agents chasing properties for a client, like I'm so stressed out because I've showed them 40 properties. What I've always thought is, why don't you go find a property that you have a connection to, and then go shop it to 40 clients? So find the right client for the property instead of the right property for the client. One theory. Talk about this. So, we've got, maybe 10 minutes left. What would you identify now, 10 years in, as your, and I think I know where you're going to go with this, but what is your superpower? Like if you say, you know what, if somebody said, Natalie, what are you great at in this industry? What is your greatest strength?
I genuinely care. I mean, I've never been about the lip service. I don't go out there and shake hands and kiss babies. Like, I want to know why you named your baby that, and I want to be there on her 10th birthday. Like, those are the things that are important to me. The client that I just helped, 10 years ago, found him his first investment property. He and his wife, they were, had come into some money. They wanted to do something smart with it. They walked into the place that I was working when there was a sign out front that said agent on duty. That was me. And they walked in and I said, you know what? There's this great property that I actually just came across. It's an assignment sale. I'm one of the only people that know about it because it hasn't hit the market. Let's walk down right now and go see it. They bought that property, and now 10 years later, I'm still property managing for them for free, because that's something that I can do over and above for my clients. And not only have I helped 3 of their sons get into real estate, and all from, finding a condo to last year when I was doing $40 million in production, I took their youngest son to 17 basement apartments throughout the city to find him a $1,500 rental. But then when I was dropping off their client Christmas gifts, and we were sitting in the front door and we're talking 6 feet apart with our masks on, and telling me about, because they thought I was the condo girl, right? Like I helped them find a condo. I now helped their sons get into properties. And it never occurred to them that I could do other real estate. So sitting there, and because I had delivered these gifts myself instead of hiring a delivery company, because I actually wanted to have conversations with people and check in with them. And COVID has been long and hard and on all of us. And so I wanted to get in there. And if you'll let me in your front door, like, I'd love to sit and chat with you for a little bit. And they had told me that, they were months away from retiring, and they had been working with this realtor outside of my market, but in a market that I was actually familiar with because I had just helped the client get into it. And they'd been working with her for 2 years and couldn't find what they were looking for. They just kept circling back. And he said, we actually just parted ways last week, Natalie. And I said, I just helped a client get in there. And I told him the address, and he was like, I didn't know that you could do that. And so 3 weeks later, they're buying their dream retirement property. And a month and a half later, we're selling their, the home that all of the boys grew up in. And so that's the cycle for me. Like they thought it was kismet that I was standing there in their living room talking to them about it. And I think it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that I care enough to stand there in front of you and to ask you what's going on in your life, what's happening. Like, they wouldn't have told me about retirement if I hadn't said, like, can you believe that you're empty nesters finally? Like, we did it,
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm in a different circle of life than you. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. You have grown children who are now starting their own families. But if it wasn't for that conversation, if it wasn't for that care, if it wasn't for just like wanting to have that connection, we wouldn't be having that conversation.
And I think you're extraordinary at human connection. I think you just, we could get into all the nitty gritty of what you do, but I think at your core, what you do is not as important as who you are. And I think it's who you are as an individual that enables you to connect with people, that enables you to do production at a massive level. But I guarantee if I said, tell me the 40 million, you would say it was this person and this person, this person, this person. Here was their story. Here was their story. And so that, without doubt, is a superpower of yours. Let me ask you this. What is your greatest weakness? Like, what is the thing that you do hire out? Or what is the thing that you are working on yourself to say, like, all right, Natalie, we've got to, like, I have a theory on weakness that some are worth working on and some are worth hiring. So, where are you at in that process as far as identifying, like, Natalie? I think you're already on like Natalie 4.0, but Natalie 5.0, attacking a few weaknesses. Like, what are some things you're working on overcoming?
My husband will tell you straight up, it's balance.
Okay.
He is a pilot, and that should have been a lot of fun because I thought, oh yeah,
travel the world.
We're going to travel the world. I have not traveled the world, and and should be, putting more effort into that. And I think it's because when you ask my clients how many people that I'm working with, they will tell you just them, because it feels like it's just them, because I make them feel like they are my only clients, because they don't care about everything else that's going on in my life. That's irrelevant to them. It's irrelevant to their experience. And so we took the kids to Disney World not too long ago, and imagine trying to find a quiet place in the animal kingdom to have a Nat pep talk with my clients for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that it's balance, and there are things that I can, and I'm looking into outsourcing. the problem is I never wanted it not to be about us, not to be about, my clients weren't coming to work for real. They were coming to work with Natalie Costello. And I never wanted to dilute that. You know, I always wanted it to be whatever you need from me, I will be there in that capacity. So I'm still working on trying to find the balance so that there can be so that my kids and I can enjoy these trips, or my husband and I can get away for a little bit. And I can relinquish some of the power to a source that I've hired out and I trust as well. So that's where I'm still working.
Well, I love it. Natalie, I'm inspired by you. There's individuals that I know, Amy being one of them. Angie in our world, Jackie, and there's just so many amazing entrepreneurial, hardworking individuals that don't do it for the money. Like, I think we didn't really get into this, but the level of production you're doing allows you to earn, great money, but I don't get the feeling that that's why you do it. And I think it's so cool that you're able to deep dive into your own world and say, here's some Zen learnings I've had. Here's some strengths. Here's some things I'm working on. I'm so excited and grateful to be in business with you. I keep begging Amy to let me come up to Toronto so that me and you and Cody and Sarah and everybody can hang out and collaborate. But thank you for your time. And more importantly, I think thank you for your honesty. You've shared a lot of who you are with us. And I think everyone on this call is just so grateful for inspirational individuals, because it's so easy for Grant Cardone or a Tom Ferry to get up on stage and tell everyone what to do. I think there's so much more power in collaboration like this, where you just go, this is what I'm doing. And then individuals can take it and apply it in their own lives. So Natalie, thank you so much.
Thank you. I've had fun this morning. Thank you for thinking of me and asking me to participate with you.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Have a great day.
Thank you.